Hello, and thank you for joining me. Thank you for being this community. This is Adult English Language Learning for adult students, and this is Adult TESOL. Today I'm answering my students' questions. One of them was about when to use the word make and when to use the word do. We're talking about verbs here. My name is Teacher Gloria's Feeling, and let's get started. When we talk about the word make, it refers to creating something. If you want to create something, you use the word make, typically in the situation. With English, there's always an exception, but 99% of the time, using the verb make means to create something. Using the verb do refers to an action. There are exceptions, as I mentioned, and the first thing that I could think of when creating this lesson was about the phrase to make do. When you don't have a lot of resources, and resources are scarce, you make do. For example, maybe you want to eat cake. Well, a cake recipe requires milk, butter, eggs, sugar, maybe some chocolate, maybe some frosting. But if you don't have the resources, maybe you just have the butter and the eggs. You'll have to make do with scrambled eggs. You might want to eat cake, but you can only eat eggs, so you have to make do. There's an exception when we use both make and do at the same time. So there's an English expression for you. Let's practice with examples about when to use to make and when to use to do. He made me angry. When you talk about your feelings, you use made or make. It makes me angry to think about how he told some lies about me, or something like that would be an example of when you could use made. He made me angry. So feelings, use the word made. The carpenter made this table. Maybe you know of someone who has an interior decorator and they wanted something custom made specifically for their living room. So the interior designer called up the carpenter who took some measurements and made a table specifically for that space. The carpenter made this table. It's custom made. So it's something that is created by an artist like a carpenter. The baker made a cake. I would say that baking is an art. Cooking is an art. So if a baker makes a cake, you can understand the idea of creation behind it, creating a cake, to make a cake. She made breakfast. Another example with food. We make breakfast, we make lunch, we make dinner. We don't necessarily do breakfast, we make breakfast. So with meals, you use the word make. That makes me feel sad. There are feelings again. If you receive bad news, maybe someone has died, or maybe someone is going to be traveling for a long time and you are unable to see them as frequently as you would like, that kind of news could make you feel sad. So for feelings, you can use the word make. That makes me feel sad. They made a lot of noise. There's an example that's really something I can relate to. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of children who play outside in their yards or in our street, and they get noisy sometimes. They made a lot of noise. For example, during the holidays, I heard a lot of carols being sung. And although I liked that noise, maybe not everyone wanted to hear all of that loud singing. So someone might say, oh, they made a lot of noise. Oh, those kids, they made a lot of noise. The baby made a mess at breakfast. For anyone out there who has a child, you know what happens when you take the spoon and you put it up to your child's lips. It doesn't always make it inside of the child's mouth. Maybe they grab the spoon, or they grab some food, or they rub it around their faces. It ends up on the cheeks, or their forehead, or in their hair, or on their clothes, or on you. That is a mess. You make a mess. The baby made a mess at breakfast. They did their homework after school. Homework is an action, something you do. So when a child has homework, they don't make homework. They do the homework after school. Let's do lunch. This is a phrase that is typically used when two business people are passing each other. It is a way to be cordial if you are in a hurry. You could say to someone, "Oh, hey, let's do lunch," in passing, so that you can be cordial to him or her even though you're too busy right now to actually go to lunch together. Let's do lunch. Did you do your chores? You can talk about doing the dishes or raking leaves or cutting the grass. These are all chores. And they're not things we make. When we speak in English, they're things we do. Did you do your chores? Did you do your taxes? This is something that everyone has to do. We must report our income to the government and fill out a lot of forms. So you want to do your taxes. That's another way of using the word do in common American English language. Usain Bolt and Justin Gatlin did well at the Olympics. They did well. They were very successful because they came in first or second or in the top 10 or whatever the race was. Their success was excellent. When you have great success like these two athletes, you can say you did well. What are you doing? When you see some children who maybe have been a little quiet and you walk up to them and you wonder what's going on, you don't know any details. It's very ambiguous and unclear, but you hope that they're not doing something they should not be. What are you doing? Is a typical way to ask not just children but anyone about something without being too direct. You aren't accusing anyone. You just want to know what's happening. What are you doing? Now I need to talk to you about your responsibility as an English language learner or any language. You must get out of your comfort zone and start speaking English with native speakers of whatever language you are learning. You need to get experience. It is not easy. I know it's difficult, and sometimes it's embarrassing because you make mistakes, but that is how you will learn. Try to make mistakes often and early, and soon you won't be making those same mistakes anymore. I can speak from experience because, as I have said to my students many times, I have lived in many countries outside of the United States, and I have been in situations where nobody around me spoke English. Either I had to use the language that I knew, and I know many, or if I didn't know the language at all, I had to do my best to try to learn some common words and phrases so that I could communicate. This is one of the best ways, in my opinion, for you to learn how to differentiate using make and do. Get out there and practice and get experience with native English speakers. If you live in the United States, like I do, it's very easy. You can just walk outside and start talking to people. But maybe you don't live in the United States. Maybe you live in a place where nobody speaks English or hardly anyone speaks English. So then you can make friends with English speakers. You can go and sign up for conversation classes and use apps. And my students practice with me during conversation hour. So please get out there and handle your responsibility in learning your language. Start speaking with native speakers. Now we can review. I've created a quiz is game for you to practice when to use make and when to use do. I have a quiz game prepared for you, but with quizzes, you must watch for game code updates because the code expires after a specific period of time. On this tab, you'll see what the code is as of today, May 24th, 45916570. All you need to do is either go onto your Quiz app or go to this website that I've displayed on my slide. So I want to thank you for joining me today, and happy language learning.